Hello everyone. We have been discussing about the protists till now, and let's look up to some of the photosynthetic protists now. These photosynthetic protists, they include the phytoplanktons, and most of them they are marine. Around 70 to 80% of photosynthesis which occurs, it is because of this photosynthetic protist only, because they have presence of chlorophyll within them, and they can photosynthesize pretty well. And the first category is of Chrysophyta. So they include the diatoms or the golden alga. The golden alga are the chrysophytes, and they have been grouped under two basic categories, namely pinnate types or the centric types. Pinnate types are bilaterally symmetrical, whereas centric types are radially symmetrical. So bilaterally symmetrical, like we human beings, we are, if we cut ourselves into equal half, one half will be similar to the another half. That is bilaterally symmetrical. Whereas radially symmetrical, when we talk about, it means the starfish. You all have seen, maybe not seen, but you all have an idea about a starfish. When we try to cut this starfish, at that time, the division from whichever plan we want to try to cut it from the center, that makes the half of the entire organism, and that is known as radially symmetrical. Whichever plane, it is not that you have to cut from only one side, but bilaterally symmetrical individuals, we can cut only from head till toe. If a human being is there and you cut the human being into equal half, I'm not saying to do it, but if we do it, then we get equal half, one eye this side, another eye this side. So in this way, there is just one plane, but if you cut from another plane, then we will not get equal half. So this is bilaterally symmetrical, whereas this is radially symmetrical. So the this is the structure of a golden alga. You can see the way it looks like, as because it looks like little yellowish tinge is there in the color. That's why we call it as golden alga. Now the characteristics of the chrysophytes. First is the morphology. They are unicellular alga and they have unique glass-like wall. So if the silicon, with the help of silicon dioxide, you all see that when sand is over there on the floor or anywhere, there is something shining within it. That is silicon dioxide. And the body of these chrysophytes, it is also made of silica, hydrated silica at times. And the cells are or the outer, each of the cell of these organism is known as frustule or shells. The habitat is mostly marine. Sometimes they are even found in fresh water. These like organisms, they are, they use or like they take in the food which is mostly for aquatic animals. So basically, they are consumed by most of the aquatic animals as their food. They add a lot of value to their food. The pigments which are required are, or which are present, chlorophyll A and, or which are present in these organisms, is chlorophyll A and C, which is very helpful. Chlorophyll A and B are helpful in photosynthesis to maximum degree. So chlorophyll A is the one which will be helping in the photosynthesis at a much higher extent. The cell wall is known as frustule. We have already an idea about it, which is divided into two halves, the theca, namely epitheca and hypotheca, whereas two overlapping halves fit together, like like two halves are there, one ball kind of halves are there, and they fit together into like a soap box, if you can correlate to, or a pair of petri dishes which can be completely overlapping or which can be completely covering each other. So that is the way it looks like. Other than that, as the cell wall is made up of two subunits, so they are called diatoms. So another name for golden alga is diatoms as well. The reserve food material is fatty oil for their body, whereas asexual reproduction occurs in them, which is due to the shrinking division mode of asexual reproduction. So one organism, it will shrink and divide in order to form new organisms. Sexual reproduction will be having gametic meiosis. They lack the presence of flagella and float mainly due to storage of lipids present within them. Due to this silica impregnations within the walls of the diatoms, they cannot be destroyed. And as a result, they form, when they die, they form the diatomous earth and make the floor, and most of the, the substances or the soil which is present within the soil, which is present within the sea floor, it has the diatoms over there, because they all are the fossil remains. These The next category of organisms which we should study is the dinoflagellates. These are little different organisms. Now, before I move on to the dinoflagellates, let's look up to this structure. You just see the structure of this golden alga. If you just try to take one of the structure and elaborate it, it will look somewhat like pinnate or centric types. This one is looking like a centric type, whereas this one is a pinnate one. So anyways, just wanted to show you again this portion. Now the next category is of dinoflagellates. They are unicellular flagellated organisms, mostly marine, and are very important photosynthesizers. They also have presence of chlorophyll A and C, whereas the cell wall is made up of cellulose plates. So these cellulose plates have presence of silica deposits over it, which makes armored appearance, shiny appearance is there, or it looks as if it is going to fight some kind of war. So flagella, next is the flagella, or are of heterocoin type. Flagella exhibits spinning type of locomotion, hence it is known as whirling whips. They have two flagella, one projecting at one end, whereas the another one in the transverse groove. So if we think about the body of the organism, it is somewhat like this. One flagella will be at the top, whereas the another one will be from the center. So see, this is the flagella at one portion, another flagellum at this. So this is how the flagellum look like. Flagellum of dinoflagellates look like. So you can see peridium, syrantium. These are the two like examples given over here. And epitheca, which we were discussing, is the outer covering. Cingulum is inner groove which is present. Sulcus is also a groove which is seen within it, and hypotheca is the inner groove. So you don't need so much of details, but at least the structure is something you can think of. The various characteristics of dinoflagellates are like we had already seen a few. The binary fission occurs in asexual reproduction, whereas in sexual reproduction can be seen in only some of the organisms like Serentium. Serentium C will be capital. Mode of nutrition is mixotropic type, so both autotropic as well as heterotropic depending on the environmental condition. Reserve food material is all most of the time oil and polysaccharides. Occasionally members like guanylix, they accumulate in large number, and they are the ones which are responsible for red tides. Some species of dinoflagellates are poisonous to vertebrates, and when they accumulate in the fish, like it causes death of lot of fishes. Sometimes you may have heard about news that a lot of marine fishes have been found dead floating over the sea, and that is because of the infection because of this poisonous dinoflagellates. Some other members are phosphorus phosphorescent and may glow in the dark. So, bioluminescence or phosphorescence is a condition in which most of the organisms or marine organisms, they attract their another sex. So, in case of sexual reproduction, this is very helpful, phosphorescence. And basically, the process is as such that ATP formation, you all are aware, ADP plus PI, which is inorganic phosphate, leads to formation of ATP. So, these all organisms which show phosphorescence, they have presence of ATP within them. And when they are glowing at that time, this ATP is breaking down and releasing the phosphate, and as because phosphate has high energy, it shows illuminescence, and that's why they are shining or they are visible in that condition. next category is of euglenoids. The morphology, euglenoids are unicellular flagellates and have both, and they can be of both plant and they are actually showing the characteristics of both plant and animal. That's why they were once categorized into the plant kingdom, but later on they have been again dragged back to the protists. Now, the habitat is freshwater, pond, ditches, or even dam soil. They are free living. Like they can be just found one of the organism as such floating in an environment. Chlorophyll A and B is present, so they are very good photosynthesizers. Cell wall is absent. This is one of the reasons why it was eliminated from the plant kingdom. Flagella, one or two flagellum may be present. It is means of which they can swim easily. Reserve food material is peramylon. Please learn this. It is made up of beta alpha, beta 1 2 glucan. This is a free living, the way they look like if you just take, uh, or if you just have a microscopic view. But if you just take one of the organism, or you want to see just the extended picture of just one of them, it looks like a green alga if you look at them as such, but they are not actually green alga. They are something completely different. They are the protists because of presence of flagella. The asexual mode of reproduction is by longitudinal binary fission. So longitudinal binary fission means, see, this is the structure. This is the structure of a euglena. And what exactly happens is, what it has two nucleus. It divides from this fashion. That is called longitudinal division. Sexual reproduction is absent in this organism, and mode of nutrition is mainly mixotropic. In sunlight, they are autotropic, but when sunlight is unavailable, they can become heterotropic, absorbing organic nutrients from the environment. And many other euglenoids even engulf the prey by phagocytosis, like the amoeba. You can see the structure of euglena, and you can see the nucleus, the longitudinal division, how does it occur, and pellicle is the outer covering of this euglena. The structure is quite similar to amoeba, but just there is si- simple difference, and the difference is regarding the structure of nucleus. There is one more nucleus present. It has not been shown over here, but there is presence of one more nucleus at times. So euglenoids are more advanced than blue-green alga from evolutionary point of view. They have definite nucleus and chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is not scattered in granule but is localized in the chloroplast as in higher plants. So they bear a red pigment which is known as eye spot and gullet near the base of flagellum, which is the pigment of eye spot. So eye spot is basically generating from astaxanthin. Astan, astaxanthin. So the pigment which gives rise to the eye spot is astaxanthin, and most of the species produces cyst having thick stratified membrane with deep red coloration due to synthesis of hematochrome. Besides seed formation, many of the non-flagellate cells may have embedded gelatinous sheath. So gelatinous sheath helps in avoiding desiccation or drying up of the euglenoids. Some of the examples of euglenoids can be euglena, paranema, or astacia. So these are some of the examples of euglenoids.